Giant monsters, or kaiju, have been known to leave a path of destruction far greater than anything attributed to my esteemed patriarch. It is my sworn duty as Jason's son of Daikaiju Danger Control to dig through the rubble and find where these creatures might strike next.
As I continue my unstuck journey in time through the Godzilla series, I find myself in 1974, at the 20th anniversary of Godzilla. By this point in time, the King of Monsters had become something of a running joke, with talking monsters, falling apart suits, and movies dedicated to fighting monsters of pollution. In celebration of this anniversary, however, Toho Studios brought Godzilla back to basics, an attack on Tokyo, a brutal battle, and a foe that only Godzilla could stand against. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla starts with Anguirus, Godzilla's first foe and longtime ally, baying at the screen. I don't know if it was originally like this, but his roars are ridiculously comical, and he seems to have his own jazz theme. In fact, the entire movie has a largely jazz soundtrack, but that doesn't make it any less ridiculous when Anguirus alternates between the sound of horns and something that sounds like a meow. Then, we go to people. Damn you, Toho Studios! I would say they didn't learn after 20 years, but modern Godzilla films would show that after 50 years, they still don't realize that not one of the human characters in a Godzilla movie is worth the amount of screen time they get. But the people are here. This starts with a lady dancing, who gets a strobe vision of a prophecy of cartoony fire, and collapses because she discovers the extent of the effects budget for this film. As the mandatory, agonizingly boring exposition period goes on, we meet a few characters and some weird stuff happens. You know how Godzilla movies do. There's a fight, but it's too choppy for me to tell who's fighting, and of course I don't speak Japanese, so dub or sub, I'm still not getting the full picture. There's a guy with a mustache, though, so you can tell early on that he's evil. There's also an obnoxious reporter with an evil laugh, which is a pretty good way to tell that he's not going to be evil later on. We also learn a little about King Caesar, the guardian of the Azumi royal family and protector of Okinawa. Then, we get Godzilla. Sort of. He doesn't have his trademark roar, but this isn't the first film like that, so that doesn't mean much. It's also incredibly noisy every time he moves, but again, that doesn't mean much per se. Then, he punches a house. Oh yes, Godzilla comes up on a house to knock it over, stands in the wreckage, and punches the remains of the roof. I am a man! At this point, I have to comment on the Godzilla suit. The fake Godzilla has obvious jaw and joint hinges, almost as though he were a cheap animatronic version of the King of Monsters. When you add that to the metallic roar and the sounds of its movements, you have a really convincing fake Godzilla, even if the effect they use for nuclear breath in this movie looks far better for Godzilla's blue breath than fake Godzilla's yellow breath and the resulting fire. Anguirus takes offense, however, possibly because his suit sucks. He looks like a bipedal man in a suit rather than a true quadruped. It doesn't really matter, though. Anguirus gets his shit kicked out of him. Literally. Naturally, Godzilla shows up when it's too late. Seriously, why should he share billing? The proximity of two Godzillas reminds us that, while they did a decent job making the fake Godzilla suit look mechanical, the Godzilla suits at this point are still garbage. The plates, spikes, whatever you want to call them, are made of shiny silver plush, and the rubber of the suit still looks like it's falling apart. In other words, if it's not obviously a suit, then it's a toy. Apparently, somebody realized this, though, because the aliens decided it was time to amp up the power, which for some reason disintegrates the Godzilla costume. The nuclear breath is replaced by rainbow eye beams, which one presumes are more powerful. Godzilla and Mechagodzilla fight to a draw, both too damaged to continue fighting, and both retreat. Then, guess what? More humans talking. More about Caesar, who apparently is even more powerful than Godzilla, or at least the Azumi family thinks so. We learn that the existence of a metal from space is evidence, which is used as a synonym for proof, that Mechagodzilla is being controlled by a spaceman, which is apparently a synonym for alien. Translation errors? I hope so, but I doubt it. While Mechagodzilla returns to the Earthbound base for the alien invaders, I want you to think about that for a minute on your own. We also learn that they are from the third planet of the black hole. You know, because there's not enough mindfucks going on here. Let's just shoot them so they can turn into apes and we don't have to deal with their dialogue. By the way, nobody on Earth thinks to follow the giant robot flying into a cave. Godzilla, meanwhile, gets caught in a thunderstorm. Thunderstorms, though, are suspenseful and awesome. Of course, Godzilla's not fighting during this thunderstorm, but that doesn't prevent him from transforming into a freaking Super Saiyan. We're roped into the human-alien plot yet again, because Mechagodzilla does not have the ability to transform into a lightning-powered Super Saiyan to heal his wounds, because he's a robot, or something. So the aliens focus on playing keep-away with the statue of King Caesar, which is needed to summon him. When the invasion comes, by the way, it's important to know that all spacemen dress like a 1950s low-budget science fiction flick. The reporter with the evil laugh is revealed to be a cop. The police are involved, naturally, because it's necessary for a couple of spacemen to be shot when they try to take the stupid statue. Seriously, I hate this statue now. In addition to the apparently necessary quick fix of summoning King Caesar, we also get a man who mentions, "I worked on the Mechagodzilla. I'm the only one who knows how to destroy it." Right, because humans were needed to create a piece of alien technology that is apparently so powerful that the military doesn't even make an attempt to destroy it. And because, well, you'll see why this line is unbelievably stupid later. By this point, you're physically in pain. It's been way too long since we had a character we cared about, because Godzilla and Anguirus were the only characters in this entire film that show emotion and are in any way interesting. Finally, the ritual to summon King Caesar begins. If you were watching entranced, go ahead, take a snack break. First, Caesar is freed from whatever it was that imprisoned him. What this means is that a suit without an actor is now able to be seen. Then, a descendant from the royal family kneels in a blowjob pose and sings. And sings. And after that, she sings! Just as Mechagodzilla arrives, ready to attack, King Caesar finally wakes up. King Caesar, by the way, is a huge, obnoxious-looking mammal with rabbit ears. His powers seem to involve automatically absorbing and releasing Mechagodzilla's eye beams and hiding behind convenient columns of rock. Thankfully, somebody who can actually fight arrives. Naturally, it's decided by the head spaceman that Godzilla must be taught a lesson by being beat to death. The fight that follows is brutal. Caesar, in general, is pretty much useless, except as a way for Mechagodzilla to show off his multitasking. Mechagodzilla reveals new power after new power, knocking Godzilla to the ground and seeing him bleed as heavily as any poor sap in a slasher flick. Godzilla hasn't lost everything, though. He transforms once again into a Super Saiyan, gaining powers such as Super Miming, which he uses to pull Mechagodzilla to him with an invisible rope. Caesar takes the offensive for the first time at this point, and Mechagodzilla loses all the flexibility he had 2 minutes earlier, allowing his neck to be snapped off, completely making the human plot pointless. I worked on the Mechagodzilla. I'm the only one who knows how to destroy it, indeed. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla is an entertaining kaiju flick, but it's severely hampered by the human plot. Sure, there are some upsides, but in general it's poorly thought out even more than the average Godzilla film. King Caesar is hyped up a ridiculous extent for such a useless creature, and there's really no explanation beyond the viewer's imagination as to why Godzilla has the powers he does. If you can get past all that, though, it's definitely enjoyable watching Mechagodzilla destroy Tokyo and watching the two Godzillas fight. In the end, it's a fun film, but only if you already love Godzilla.